Awesome. I think let's get into things. Like I said, we do have a very busy session today. Lots of interest in the topic. If you just joined us, please complete our pre-entry poll around what you think are the biggest threats that generative AI poses to agencies. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen, or click the link that I've shared in the chat. There it is again if you joined us late. And let's get into things. Quite a few familiar faces here, but loads of people I haven't met before. By way of quick introduction, my name is Nick. I'm the CEO of a UK-based training company called Edify. We've been around for about 2 years, but I have worked in learning and development myself for most of my career. About 17 years I was working out the other day, which is kind of a scary thought. And I'm really interested in how technology changes people's behavior. And specifically, as I can see, we've got a lot of L&D professionals joining us today, thinking about what that means from an L&D perspective. It's very much, I'll talk a little bit around kind of some of the work that we've been doing and some of the programs that we offer towards the end of the session. But of course, I'm not the special guest today. Now, we asked a question before you arrived around what you see some of the biggest threats of generative AI to be. Let's take a quick look at some of those responses that come through there. So threats to creativity, threats to operations, redundancy being maybe a word that's on many people's lips at the moment. Is AI going to replace me? Threat to business models, 100%, particularly in the agency world, I think, as we'll explore today. A lot of fear and hype. I always most separate those words. I think in many ways, if you're familiar with Gartner's kind of hype cycle for emergent technologies, I'd say we're coming out. We've been through the inflated peak of expectations. We've dropped into the trough of disillusionment, and I think we're starting to emerge out into the plateau of productivity with Gen AI, certainly with a lot of the clients we've been working with. But some interesting words there, some interesting thoughts. Always good just to check in to see where people are at. Now, of course, I'm really just here to host today's session. I'm joined by two amazing guest speakers from Publicis. For those who are not familiar with Publicis, I'm sure most of you are, a huge, ginormous global group of agencies that includes brands that you may recognize along the bottom there. Agencies like Saatchi & Saatchi, Starcom, Zenith, Profitero, Kext, over 100,000 employees globally. I can't even pronounce that number of euros in terms of annual turnover, and operating in 100 plus companies. I'm joined today by two people representing very different markets of Publicis. We have Maria and Nadia. And the reason I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a moment, but I wanted to invite them along. There's no mistake that on the news, Publicis have been seen to be investing an incredible amount into AI, into deploying AI tools, into upskilling employees to operate with AI. And so today we wanted to explore how is this translating into a learning and development perspective. So I'm joined by the wonderful Maria from the US market and Nadia from the DAC or the European market. Maria, give us a quick hello.
Sure. Hi, and thank you, Nick, for having me here today. So I'm Maria Weicker. I'm the VP Director of Learning and Development for Publicis Media. I'm responsible for the learning needs for Publicis Media throughout the US.
Awesome. And Nadia.
Hi guys, so it's very exciting to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Nadia Kniels. I'm part of the leadership team of L&D, and I'm an L&D director for DACH, which it also includes Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So we do all of our L&D work for those three markets, and I've been around in Publicis since 2006, so it's quite some time now, and I've done a lot of HR work generalistically and moved into an L&D role a couple of years ago, 6, 7 years ago now. And I'm really, really glad that you invited me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria and Nadia, for joining me today. Of course, we're going to be talking all things AI and L&D. Publicis being, an extremely large client that we've been working with. And I thought it would be quite interesting, particularly to get two different kind of points of view on this, the Northern US market and the European market. Hence why I asked Maria and Nadia to join me. We've got a few discussion points that we're going to go through today, and some questions that have kind of come in from our audience already. As we do that, we've also got Q&A enabled on Zoom. So if you have a specific question that you'd like to field over to Maria or Nadia, feel free to submit that through the Q&A button in Zoom, and we'll pick those up towards the end of the session. So at any point, drop your questions in, and we will get those towards the end. So in terms of kind of just starting the conversation off, I mean, there's absolutely no mistake that AI is fundamentally transforming the way that people work. And as we saw from those news articles before, huge investment, particularly disruptive, I'd say, in agency land. How, from an organizational point of view, are you supporting the upskilling of generative AI specifically within your teams or within your local markets? I think, Maria, would you like to share some of your insights on this?
Sure. Well, first I'd say, as you saw from the articles before, Publicis Groupe overall is already at the forefront of this. We have these incredible leaders who are such believers in this space and have been forging forward in this space already. So to begin with, our global L&D teams are doing so much. So to begin with, I want to acknowledge that our global UN L&D teams have been out there building foundational learning opportunities. They have a series of learning opportunities that are webinars where they literally have people sign up for a specific tool. They open the tool during the webinar, they get their hands on, and they try things out from the very basics up. They also have a whole extensive e-learning series going on as well. So within the global team, they are taking care of all of these fundamental foundational skills and getting everyone upskilled on the basics of how you actually use the tools. So from my perspective, from my team's perspective, we have to stop and consider, all right, well, what else do we need to do? Is there more work that needs to be done? And for us, in responsibility for the US. So a couple of things that we've been doing in this space, to begin with, amplifying the work that the global team is doing for the e-learning series in particular. We have been having weekly contests of, if you participate for all of the badges that you earn, every badge is a chance to win. And there have been winners along the way for participation. And that's just been a fun way to just draw attention to the global programs and make sure that people are seeing them, participating in them, and give that little extra incentive. But the additional work that we're doing on top of it has been about bridging a gap. What we ended up seeing as a gap was, all right, the foundational learnings are happening, but how can we help people bridge the gap of the application piece? How can we help people think about, all right, now I know how to use ChatGPT, for example, functionally, foundationally, but now how can I use it for my client business, for my actual day-to-day job? What can I do? So the couple of initiatives that we have, that I'd highlight that we have done in this space, to begin with, we have a annual career month. We just had it in March. For that career month, we stop during that month and say, okay, what additional keynote speakers or panels or topics do we want to highlight for our employees to have some fresh new inspiration? And of course, this AI topic is one that we really wanted to make sure to emphasize. So we did a couple of different initiatives here. One we called AI in Action. And for that one, it was an internally led conversation. We went and said, all right, we think that people need to see what other people are doing within the company and how they are applying AI and showcase the excellent work that is already being done, because everyone is at a different spot. There are different people who this is brand new to. There are other people who are already forging forward and doing amazing work. So how do we expose that, showcase that, and inspire people? So we approached the teams that are in the innovation space and ask them, okay, you are the leaders in this space. Can you come and showcase the incredible work that you are doing for our clients? But we also approached the other teams, just the regular day-to-day teams, and said, are any of the day-to-day teams already applying AI in a really innovative way? And we will showcase your examples. So we got to showcase examples all the way from, you know, the big ones to some day-to-day just quick wins. And I think that was really inspiring for people because it opened the door to what AI can do for them, not just how it works, but now how to make it work for their client businesses. So that was a really great one. The next one that we did was also within that career month. And that was with your team, Nick. And in that case, we wanted to showcase, we called the session, What's Next in AI? We wanted to showcase what is beyond, what is coming. Everybody right now has their heads down learning the basic functionality and then hopefully how to apply that. But we use this opportunity to say, okay, well, can you help educate us on where this whole landscape is going? And we had this incredible webinar led by Phil Dearson from the Edify team. So thank you, Nick. And it was an incredible webinar that helped open all of our eyes to agents, super agents, et cetera, all of the things coming down the line, at least that we could foresee at this moment over the next 5 years. And I think that was incredibly eye-opening. And that gave a chance for everybody to see, wow, this space is really going to revolutionize all of our lives and all of our jobs and everything that is coming. It was a little scary. It was a little exciting. It was a little inspiring. But mostly, I think it also emphasized, all right now, we have to get on this because all of that is coming. So that is coming quickly. I better jump on making sure that I learn the fundamentals now. So I think that also really, got everyone jump started on, I better dive into this now. The third thing that I'll highlight, and then I'll pass it on to Nadia. The third thing that I'll highlight is, as a part of our ongoing programming, we have a manager and leadership program with ongoing programs all throughout the year. And for that, we added a program called Leveraging AI for Client Impact, also with the Edify team. And that was with the purpose of also thinking about how do we take the fundamental learning of how to use AI, but apply it now, in this case, how to make client impact, bridging that gap of the application.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's some amazing insights there, Maria. And I think that whole bridging the gap from the strategic kind of like, we're investing all this money into AI to, can people actually use it? And then the second challenge of people just getting the here and now with such technology that's moving at such an exponential pace is also getting people to like not get caught on the tools, like learn the tools, but also be seeing like over the horizon. So some big challenges there. But Nadia, what about yourself when it comes to kind of bridging the gap?
Yeah. So I can only underline what Maria just said about appreciating all the efforts from the global team, because they are really working hard to bring us all together. So additionally to their work on offering foundational knowledge to everybody of those like over 100,000 employees in Publicis, which is quite huge. They also bring us together in a network of, and they called it play captains, so AI captains, and we all like connect with each other. Basically, it's a connection of people who are engaged in learning within Publicis. And this is my takeaway. The biggest takeaway is to have those kind of connections to other people that also invest so highly in AI upskilling. And when we started our journey in 2024, in the summer or the beginning of 2024 even, we had the great opportunity to be invited as L&D into a wider group of experts who already came together and discussed. So they were internal experts, client managers, client-facing talents, even management, top management from our agencies in our market. And they had previous discussions about what that meant for our market, what it means for client work, etc. So they brought us in with the goal of them really building a learning and development program. And we did that. We called it, and we still call it RAISE. And it started in the summer of 2024, and it started off as an open training program, a multi-modular program that was being built together for all parts of our market. So creative talents on the one hand side, tech and engineering people, media on the other hand. So it's quite the the wide option of trying to get everybody on board when it comes to working with generative AI. And in the meantime, the global team was building Play as our global playground for AI upskilling. And that meant for us that for 2025, we are now able to really have an exclusive version of Raise only for very high potential and power users that we are now bringing together who really, really know what their clients need, who are very, very close to the business. And it's now our approach that we are really trying to build the best kind of training program that serves their needs and that they are able at the end to build the right kind of products for the clients and etc. So it's really about the having the foundations and the global offerings for everybody that we are now able really to bring something to life, which is really concentrated for our experts and our AI talents in our market.
Yeah, and I think that's something interesting working with your market, Nadia, that you have these kind of power users that are really hungry for more. They understand prompting, they understand the basics, but they're like, how can I build an AI application? How can I actually deploy AI? Some of them even wanting to get more into the coding side of things, even though that's not typically like maybe part of their remit, but trying to service them as well, to see how you can actually value add with AI to clients. So it's been a really interesting space to watch. And both of you flagged on this idea also of like having kind of global rollout some training programs, but then having to do quite a lot of kind of local initiatives alongside that. Would you say that's kind of the case? It's, you know, it's not kind of one size fits all. It's brilliant to have these resources, but
Yeah, I would definitely say it's taking everything that's out there and then figuring out what else, what more, how do we amplify that and make sure that people are taking advantage from full advantage of that, and then also what else can we add that is filling in a gap and taking it to that next space.
yeah.
Yeah, and also I think that's a great thing about L&D, right? It's like building this puzzle that you know only like pieces exist at the beginning, and then you kind of know the big picture, but you aren't quite there yet. And when you are, that's like the goal, and it's great, and you're happy. So that's why I love the job, really.
It is that puzzle of like, and we saw this with digital transformation, right? You kind of have to be hitting all different layers of the organization in different ways, getting like trying to build the momentum for change. But when you kind of get the puzzle right and you see the teams excelling, starting to deliver new things and do things better, I think that's the exciting part. Well, that's the nice side of it. What about the obstacles? I mean, certainly we've come across a lot of obstacles in the training sessions we've run for all of the clients with Edify. But Maria, I know in particular we've come across some with the US market. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, it is true. Yes, we did have an obstacle that I would highlight when putting together the leveraging AI for client impact course. We misjudged. We positioned the class for a more senior level, and because of that, in designing the class, we made an assumption that they knew more about AI than they actually did. And in the pilot of the class, the feedback that we got was that all of the learning was great learning. However, it was a step beyond where the actual participants were. So in going into the next round, we needed to recalibrate, we needed to rethink and realize just because someone has a senior title doesn't mean that they know this space yet. We are all in the middle of this AI revolution, and it's new for everybody. There are certain people that are early adopters, there are certain titles that push you forward, but generally speaking, the people that were signing up for this class still needed a lot of fundamental learning. So we needed to recalibrate the programming to build back in some of the foundational hands-on. Okay, let's get you in the tools and let's have you work with the basics of it, while also still staying true to the objective of the course, which is now how to apply it to clients to increase your client impact. So adding in both elements. Now let's use some basic functionality to now apply it to this higher level task, if you will.
Yeah, I think that was a huge learning, that we kind of assumed people were at a certain level. We ran some training, we realized that people maybe hadn't even grasped the most basic parts of this. So there was a real part of like, and thank you for working with us on this, but kind of learner discovery, like actually talking to the people who are going to be in the program, understanding where they're at, and then like recalibrating to adjust to their needs. So again, that kind of one size fits all approach. And I mean, it astonishes me constantly. I think we feel so ahead of the curve because we're kind of working in AI every day. But actually, a lot of these people working in various agencies and that maybe have buried their head a little bit in the sand, or a little bit terrified of the technology, or haven't quite grasped even conceptually what it's capable of. So really trying to recalibrate that has been a big one. Nadia, what do you feel is the most important when you obviously look after a whole host of different agencies within the group? What do you think are the most important things that talent should be learning, specifically around generative AI?
Yeah, so let me start with connecting my answer a little bit to what Maria also said, and you pointed out, is you have to know your target audience, and this is like one piece that is more important when it comes to training programs for generative AI, even more than it does normally to your L&D work in general. And you really need to figure out what they already know, and if they have a different opinions about what they know and what they don't know. And it doesn't mean that it won't happen to us in the future. And this is why the connection between us in Publicis Groupe is so vital, because I remember, Nick, that you then came to me and said, look, I know we're doing this in this training, but we have this experience now with Maria. Let's take that into account. And I know you were doing that and you're going forward, but think about what you want to do again. So that was a huge thing, that now having experiences from US can really help move us forward also in the DACH market. And then when we think about what we want to train, well, of course, it is important that when we now think about our power users, and I am in no way an expert in the same way that they are. So I am serving with my L&D expertise in a way their expertises and their growth, and at the end also their client growth. And it is about understanding then generalistically how large language models work, of course. And we kind of set that as a presetting. You have to know what's going on before you come in our workshops right now. You also have to know what kind of tools you have in your day-to-day work, maybe for the creative side, and they need to know. And they also need to know what is approved and what not. So I didn't want to bring this up too early into our conversation, but this is something that is very, very crucial for our work, is if you have in your organization an AI policy in place that really tells you what kind of tools are allowed or approved or are undergoing a specific process of being licensed or aligned. This is also something where Publicis Groupe is really investing a lot and is doing a great job. Hence, also has the challenge of that those kind of processes for 100,000 people having at the end the account takes time, and time is also of the essence when it comes to AI upskilling. So there's so many layers that fall into place when you create a program. You need to know what kind of goals that the target groups that you have identified have, what kind of client policies might also be in place, what your own policies are, what is allowed and what not. And then you need to talk to your training vendors about it. And it is really a process that you always think, okay, it needs more time, but we don't have time. And it's so crucial then at the end that we have like very close partnerships with you guys, for example, and also with others that we have identified in our German-speaking market, for examples, because that's also something that is then very helpful to us in that way.
Yeah, of course, without divulging too much confidential information, but it is in the public domain, your Marcel platform. I mean, your people have access to loads of different tools, so many tools. I think it can kind of be overwhelming sometimes. So again, it's just providing that instruction, helping people appreciate what the different tools might be used for, upskilling them, and then again pushing those power users on. So we've spoken about this a few times, and I'm going to deflect this one to Maria. Particularly in agencies. We work with several agencies, both large and small, at Edify. There is a lot of concern about AI eradicating certain business models and replacing people. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of fear that comes in this area. There's excitement, but there's also fear. I think what I like to refer back to is that Scott Galloway quote, which I think has been thrown around quite a bit in this industry, but I just think it's so perfect. And actually, fun fact, I actually was a student of his when I went to grad school at NYU. So kind of fun to see his name in the media so much. His quote is, AI will not take your job, but somebody who is using AI will. And I think what that says to us is don't be afraid of AI. Just learn how to use it. It's a tool. It's a tool for all of us that can help enhance our functionality. If we can leverage it, it can make us all better at our jobs, better at our roles. It can make us more efficient. It can help us brainstorm things, whatever it may be. It can enhance how we can do our jobs. So I think that AI might change certain types of roles and functions and might open up different types of roles and functions. But I think the main thing for all of us to think about at this point in time is just how can we be the people who are using it to be smarter and better at our jobs and be that person who's going to be leveraging it to be the best that we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. To borrow, I guess, a Google concept there, but the idea of 10x, like making everyone a 10x employee is possible with, by harnessing generative AI. It's still primitive days. We're still on the tip of the iceberg. I think I read a quote also from Google recently where they say that we're about 1% of the way to understanding how much technology is going to change human life or something. So like it is, it's early days, but it's kind of get on board, don't get left behind. Which is so key, and understanding the value that humans do bring still to the conversation, and to strategic problem solving and to creativity, and so forth. So one question, I guess, for both of you, maybe we'll start with Nadia. What advice, we've got loads of people here, kind of from different organizations, different agencies. What's your kind of one sage piece of advice that you give to other leaders or L&D professionals in terms of getting people on board with this?
Right. So team up with your experts. So if you are an L&D professionalist, go and reach out to your AI experts, to those in your organization who already move forward with the technology. And if you are a manager or a leader, talk to your L&D people, because they need to know and they want to know and they are curious about what they can do to support this process. And yeah, I was very lucky that we were invited very early on. And there is the necessity of, when you are in an organization that is so fragmented into different entities or departments, if you may, that you bring them all together and that you identify, let's say, champions from each department or people that can represent a specific capability, etc. So when you bring them together, they still might have different objectives and different client work or different tasks that they have on their table day to day. However, I felt that it was very beneficial to have people talking and have them sharing what they have learned, sharing their cases, their client work, their challenges, because then you can move forward as the organization in itself. And you can't do that on your own. And specifically when it comes to working with generative AI and understanding what that means, it is different for creative agencies because they were the first movers in a way, than to the tech segments and the media agencies. So they are all on a different level and then all on a different knowledge level. So bring them together, make sure you're part of the conversation as L&D. You might not necessarily be at the front of knowing everything, but you have to know who's there and to connect them, and in some ways to understand what they're talking about, and bringing then all those connections to life. And one easy way to do that for us was that after we built Raise as a program that ran for a couple of weeks, then afterwards in the months coming, in the wintertime, we just ran internal webinars where we invited two internal experts, like back to back, and gave them the task of, look, you're sharing your case for 20 minutes, and then your colleague will share theirs, and then you will have a Q&A where you can discuss kind of what we do right now, right? So if you do that for your organization and open it up for everybody, it helped to give people an understanding of what's going on. And yeah, so my advice would be, become part of this conversation, and don't be alarmed if you feel that there's so much to know and to learn, because there still is always. Just make sure that you have the connections that you need in your organization.
Classic kind of growth mindset principles there. Maria, what would be your sage advice?
Yeah, I what I would layer onto that is I would just say, don't be afraid to be too fundamental. And starting with the basics and knowing that there are some people who have forged forward and are the early adopters and have really embraced this. There are other people who maybe they are afraid, or maybe it is overwhelming, or maybe it is just something that they're not a technology early adopter, and it is their first time delving into this space. And when you're putting together trainings and such, I like what Nadia, what you'd said is be mindful of where your people are at. And I think it seems like in your space, you have trainings that you need to put together for people much further along. And in my case, I had to learn the other side of it as well. So both sides are so important. Making sure to start at the basics, get everybody into the fundamentals, hands-on, and growing from there. And then the other piece that I'd layer on to that is then the exposure to the people who have forged forward and found applications already and have been leveraging and using this space and giving that exposure, giving that showcase, because that's what gives the inspiration of how do I, first of all, functionally use this? And now, how do I apply this? What can I actually do with this? Give me some ideas because I didn't know it to begin with. Oh, now I see because you have all done that. That's amazing. I'm going to try that too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I love that. That is really good advice. We actually had a good question come through in the chat as you were talking through that, which is specifically like, how do you motivate those who are reluctant to learn about generative AI, which I think is a brilliant question. As I'm going to throw that question over to you in a moment, but I'm also going to throw a question to the audience around, we've spoken a lot about the threats and the difficulties of Gen AI. What do you see as the opportunities? So there is a Mentimeter that I'm sharing in the chat there now. Would love some answers to come through on that. You can scan the QR code on the screen. But back to Maria and Nadia, how do you deal with the nascent kind of haters, ones that don't want to learn about it?
I mean, I think a couple things. I think to begin with, showing that application that other people have been using this and they have been finding just even day-to-day ways to make improvements and making it accessible and making it not this huge campaign that you have to build, but a small win. Here's small ways. Here's a way that you could merge your data. Here's a way that you can use this to brainstorm. Here's a way you can take meeting notes. Here's a way you can, whatever these small ones are, helping people begin to understand those and see those, because many people just haven't been exposed to that yet. And once they begin to say, oh, I can do that, oh, well, you know what, maybe I should try that. That is helpful. And giving them small ways to start using it, and then they can build up as they build their comfort level with those things. To me, that's the first one. And then, then I guess I'll just layer on it. We have seen success with the initial programming that I talked about, where our global has this set of e-learnings out there, and we said, okay, for the next 6 weeks, every week we're going to have a winner. When you are every course that you take, you get a badge. Every badge is a chance to win. We have seen an exponential increase in the amount of people who are using these badges for this period of time. And we phrase it as, the company is so invested in you. We really want to make sure that you are taking this time while we have these opportunities to upskill you. And I do love the feedback that we've gotten from it. They're like, this was the incentive that I needed. I've been curious about this, but I just needed that push to get started, which is really nice to hear as well.
Brilliant answer. Nadia, we've got a question that might be a bit more fielded to you, which is specifically around AI adoption across different markets. Now, admittedly, your markets are kind of geographically quite similar, but have you noticed much of a difference in adoption of these tools in the DACH region?
Not really. So I don't think that the markets or countries make a huge difference. So being part of the EU, so we are all very cautious about the AI policies that we have in place. So everybody kind of really thinks about, what can we do? What's the legal process here? What kind of steps are allowed? What can we do when it comes to client work? So what is important is to give them step-by-step guidelines how to move forward in a safe environment. And so that everybody is on board and knows where they can get their access to the tools and who they can talk to when they want to set up like contracts and work with the legal team, for example, et cetera, et cetera. So so everybody has kind of the same question at that point. And that doesn't make any difference. Now, when it comes to the application of generative AI tools, now we're talking a different story, because then it's all about the goals that you want to achieve for your client work. And then again, even if you are sitting in the same kind of entity, same kind of agency, you might work for different clients and they have also different approaches and different policies in place. And that now is another layer. So there's not enough time to go into that. But what I mean is, at the end, the questions are all the same of how to move forward, how to be, how to progress in this legal safe space. And if you can provide a good understanding for your organization that everybody knows where to go and who to ask, then this is very crucial. And then you can work with the agencies, maybe individually, if they have individual needs you need to address. You then talk to them and see if you can align them in your program that you're running. If not, which might happen because they have very specific needs, then you kind of team them up with another vendor or another person to talk to. So sometimes it's not even, as you already said, it's not one answer when it comes to like solving the problem of your client. There's not one answer. The one answer is then just at the beginning of how to get there. Is that what kind of steps do I follow? There you can build a path for them, and then at the end you kind of like just show you can go left, you can go right, you can do this and that. And this is basically the job that we all do in L&D.
Oh. We have some other great questions coming through here. One specifically is about exploring, going beyond just ChatGPT and like note takers and actually building agents and workflows. I know, Nadia, we are working on a very specific program around that. Maybe I can pick that up separately with the person that asked that question. And just someone else, one other, I think it's just maybe a couple of word answer, but now that ChatGPT seems to be getting used everywhere, is there any other tools that you've come across that you think, either, I guess, within Marcel or within the Publicis ecosystem that you think, oh, that's really cool. I can't imagine my life without that anymore.
Oh, wow. That's an expert question. So we kind of built our own version of Canva. So there is a Gen Canva tool that's really, really cool, but kind of like embeds everything everywhere all at once. So you can kind of do the creative stuff there, and you can implement also voiceover stuff, and you can do, you can use the large language models within Gen Canva. So it's very smart. I just started using it recently and like making my own videos, which I have never done before. It's so exciting. And it is. I'm just saying it's not something where I would never need anybody else from a creative standpoint to help me to do that job. So I can do like my first kind of like creative tasks and items here, items there, and then somebody from the creative agency would come and like say, okay, take that what you've just created and let's do something great out of it. So I always am appreciative about everybody who is supporting L&D work in that sense, but we have kind of the tools to play around a little bit and make sure that we understand what's happening. So yeah, that's very cool.
And for you, Maria, any particular tools that you've been playing with?
No, I do not have a good answer for that. I am a late adopter in all of these things, generally. And so for me, it's just learning all the basics, ChatGPT, Copilot, DALL-E, Firefly. I mean, just basics. Right. So the person answering the question should probably be you, Nick.
Oh God, I've got so many. I wanted to bring this up, just some of the opportunities to kind of end on a little bit of a positive note, but productivity gains, efficiency gains, augmenting existing services, brainstorming partner. I love this like new way of think. I use AI all the time now just to spur ideas, or fill the blank page sometimes. You give me a starting brief of something. Growth and wisdom. Wisdom's a very philosophical word, I think, for us to finish on there. Just by the way of, thank you so much, Maria and Nadia, for joining us. If you're joining this call and you're interested in finding out a bit more how you can upskill your teams, We do have a whole range of training programs to do that. We tend to measure success across three really critical things I think Maria and Nadia have touched on today. So confidence around AI, of course, productivity gains, but also this idea of trying to create advocates internally that go out and they kind of promote AI adoption and they kind of train others and they get people to come on that journey with them. And we've worked with some, fantastic clients and agencies as part of that. Like I said, we have a whole suite of different programs that we offer. Everything from very kind of short form, quite hands-on keyboard things like our client services session that we've been running with Maria and her team in the US and about to run for the German team, right through to quite an intense 12-week software developers program that teaches people how to build AI applications, strategic leadership programs, and many more in between. So if you're interested in finding out any more about the programs that we offer, or just want some advice on kind of where to get started, please feel free to reach out to us. You can scan that QR code on the screen or click the link that I've just shared in the chat. I think that brings us to time. Maria and Nadia, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us today. I mean, there were so many nuggets of amazing information in there. I'm certain people will walk away with some ideas.
Thank you, Nick. It was a
Thank you
very
as
big
well.
pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you very much to everyone that joined us today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.